Okay, meantime, let's talk oil right now. Well, oil saw its worst trading day in 29 years yesterday. Both WTI crude and Brent crude lost nearly a quarter of their value, and the S&P energy sector ended the day 50% off its 52-week closing high as Saudi Arabia launched a price war against other key producers. Today, however, a little bit of good news we'll see here. Oil prices bouncing back a bit. WTI crude right now at $33.65. That's up about 8%. Joining us right now for a look at the impact this price war will have on the energy sector, Gary Ross, CEO of Black Gold Investors. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
This is a little bit of a nice, I don't want to call it a rally, a little bit of anything is better than where we were before. But the question is whether you think this is a bottom, whether you think it's where this is headed next.
I don't think it's a bottom because we haven't really seen the supply. I mean, Saudi Arabia is increasing supply to 12 million barrels a day plus in April. So that's April loaders. That won't arrive in the United States until June. So basically, we haven't seen the huge surge in supply. There's been stock building, of course, in Asia because of the very sharp demand drop from the virus. But we're going to see this supply coming in the next few months. So I don't think we've seen the lows yet.
Okay, so we haven't seen the lows. Talk about the fallout in terms of what you think the economic impact is, where you think the fallout will be.
Well, I think it's going to have a dramatic effect mostly on U.S. Shale producers.
Right.
I mean, we're going to see production in the United States plateau and then begin to decline. And that's, of course, assuming that this continues, which I think it will.
Well, that's the question, though. Is there what could be done if you were in charge here? Is there anything that can be done to end this stalemate? I don't know if we'll call it stalemate. Maybe a nice way to put it.
It's the right thing for them to do from an economic point of view.
You're saying the right thing for
Saudi Arabia to do it from an economic. They cannot manage the market by themselves. If you think about it, there was a 1.7 million barrels a day official cut. The Saudis went from 10.6 to 9.7. They accounted for over 50% of the cut. Who can cut in OPEC? It's Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, basic, maybe Iraq a little bit. But they can't do it alone. They need, that's 14 million barrels a day of 102 million barrels a day global production. They need non-OPEC. They need Russia, one of the largest oil producers in the world. And Russia was really not doing anything. They're a free rider in this whole cut. And so the Saudis just said enough is enough.
Do you think there's any pressure to be put on Russia? Do you think there's any pressure to be put on Saudi over the next couple of days here?
I think there's been some pressure put on them. I wouldn't be surprised the U.S. administration has tried to put some pressure on them. But at the end of the day, if you're Saudi Arabia, you can't manage this alone. And also, step back. You have Libya out, 1 million barrels a day. You have Iran out of the market, 2 million barrels a day. You have Venezuela out of the market. I mean, you're talking about a huge potential supply when you look out the next year. So how do you make room for all this potential supply? You have to get shale to start slowing down and start declining. And $35 WTI will lead to a 2-3 million barrel a day drop in shale production next year, and that's will make room for all this.
So if you're a public investor out there, retail investor, looking at this situation today, you would do what? Given what you know.
Well,
maybe you own some of the big public companies. Maybe you own some MLPs. What I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really own anything. I own a cannabis company.
No, I understand, but I'm saying you're looking at this, and if you're out there watching us right now, you would tell our viewers what?
Well, I would say consumers are going to benefit from lower prices. Right. I think there'll be a period of time when refiners will benefit from the fact that the feedstock will be relatively inexpensive. Inevitably, though, cheap crude will become a cheap product and put some pressure on margins down the road. And I think all industrial complexes that use energy are going to find that their costs have come down. But look, you were just talking about the airlines. It hasn't helped them all that much, given all the cancellations that they've seen.
So the journal says, lead op-ed, Putin shows again that he's not Trump's friend. What about MBS? President Trump may need to use the phone to remind the Crown Prince which country has stuck by him during his war with Yemen, his standoff with Qatar, and missile attacks from Iran. Do you think President Trump calls MBS and says, help us out?
I bet you he already called him.
You think he's already called him and said, WTF? What do you think? What did he say when he called him?
I think he probably called him and said, look, this is, creating a disequilibrium in the market. It's causing the stock market to go down. We need you to stabilize the oil price.
Did you say that?
But it wasn't exactly what you heard this morning. What you heard this morning from the CEO of Aramco is we're going to 12.2.
Right.
That's a tremendous increase in sales. Think about it. They're only selling 400 a day to the U.S. market. The way they've lowered prices, they went from $3 overpriced to $4 underpriced in the U.S. market. Their sales in the U.S. are going to go from 400 a day to 1.5 million, 2 million barrels a day come April loaders. So we're going to see a huge increase in the U.S.
Where does the president come down just in terms of we want lower gas prices for Americans, but all of a sudden it's so low that it's threatening jobs in the industry? Like what
he wants it both ways, right? He wants Texas, Louisiana, New Mexico,
North Dakota.
Exactly. So,
do well.
But you can't have it both ways. At the end of the day, it all comes down to fundamentals, supply and demand.
It's just a weird thing to think of the American president saying, "Hey, we want you to stabilize and not let prices fall lower." It's a weird twist.
What
It
else?
tells you where we've come because we're doing so much oil production ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.